Hi guys, it's Mr. Gonzalez again, here with Lesson 7, Measures, Bar Lines, and Double Bar Lines. The main objective of this lesson is to be able to identify measures, bar lines, and double bar lines. We will also be looking at how bar lines change between single staves and the grand staff. Music is divided into equal parts by bar lines. The area between the two bars is called a measure or bar. Here we have our measure or bar. These words can be used interchangeably. And here is our bar line. A double bar is written at the end of a piece of music. It is made up of one thin line and one thick line, with the thick line always on the outside. Here is our double bar line with the thin line on the inside and the thick line on the outside. On a grand staff, the bar lines and double bar lines pass through the entire staff. Here we see the bar line going all the way through and the double bar line going all the way through. Make sure when you are drawing a bar line on the grand staff that you pass through the entire staff, not just one then the other. It needs to go all the way through. Let's take a look at our exercises. For our first exercise, we are going to divide the staff into 4 measures with a double bar line at the end. Here's a hint. A single staff does not begin with a bar line. So, first things first, let's go to the end and add our double bar line. Next, we will eyeball 4 measures. So to create 4 measures, all we need to do is add 3 bar lines. So we'll add 1 bar line here, come over, add another bar line right here, and then add one last bar line right here. And we have 4 measures. I have already drawn the treble clef for our next exercise. We will divide the staff into 4 measures using a double bar line at the end. Next, we will write any whole note in each measure. After that, we will name each whole note that we have written. Let's go. First, let's add our double bar line at the end. Next, I have already placed our 4 whole notes. Normally, I would draw out our bar lines first and then add the whole notes. But the program that I'm using is limited. So, in this case, I will place our notes first and then our bar lines. For our first bar line, we'll put it right here in between these 2 notes. For measure 1, a bar line right here for measure 2, and a bar line right here to make measures 3 and 4. Next, we will name each note. I made this one fairly easy and I used every space of the treble clef. If you remember, we can use our word face to help us figure out what note we have. For our first space, we have F, second space A, third space C, and our last space is E. For our next exercise, I have already drawn the bass clef for us. We will divide the staff into 4 measures with a double bar line at the end. Next, we will write a whole note in each measure, and then we will name our whole notes. Let's get started. Like in our last example, we'll put our double bar line first. Next, I will be placing our notes. Alright, we have our notes placed. Now we can use this as a guide for our bar lines. So, a bar line here for measure 1, a bar line here for measure 2, a bar line here for measures 3 and 4. Now remember, like I said earlier, my program is very limited in what I can do, and I would like you to first draw your bar lines and then add your notes. But let's name our notes. So, if you remember, we can use our sentence, all cows eat grass, to help us identify the bass clef spaces. So we have A, C, E, and G. For our last exercise, I have already drawn the grand staff and the double bar line at the end. Now we will divide the staff into 4 measures, making sure that the line goes all the way through. Okay, let's eyeball our bar lines. We'll put a bar line right here for measure 1, a bar line right here for measure 2, and a bar line right here to make measures 3 and 4. And that's it for today's lesson, guys. I hope you feel more confident in your ability to identify measures, bar lines, and double bar lines. For our next lesson, we will be looking at time signatures and note values.